to do that. On what ground? Was there any a detection of a crime? Was I specifically identified? Can I be identified under that category of persons? So I have the right to my I don't want to say what went further. Let me just pause at that moment. But we had to do some gri as lawyers, and but there are so many persons that they seized their laptops and kept them for hours. They kept them for hours. But unfortunately for the police officer, there was a legal for road safety inside the car. Myself, my colleague, and a journalist. So we're too hot for them. So they just let us go. So, but that's what is about private, right to privacy and family life. Now, you also have right to privacy of your data. Now, what is data privacy? Very important. Next slide. Next. Data privacy is the protection of personal data from those who should not have access to it, and the ability of individuals to determine who can access their personal information. Now, it simply means that your data, my passwords, my Facebook passwords, yes, my ATM cards, my SIM cards, you don't have a right, to get into it, except with my permission. Now, it's very funny. This right is very funny. How many of us have known the recent POS scam? It's crazy now. It happened to me last month. About 100 and something thousand naira was deducted from my account. You just see it, 70,000 POS. As you're shouting, yeah, 15,000 POS. Hey, let me wear shoe, 10,000 POS. Kukuman, now leave me, now take all the money. But that's what is going on. So I got, So I was so irritated. I went to the bank. In fact, what I did was, as I was coming from court, I didn't change. I went with my lawyer's dress and got into the bank. So when they saw me, they said, gang, trouble. I said, I want to close my account. Hey, what's the problem? When I explained it to them, the lady turned to me and said, all these people came for POS, OP. So that's what's going on now. So you just go to when we go to buy fuel or go somewhere, we are pressed for cash. We say, okay, you see POS, you put your POS, collect money. Unfortunately, things are going down with that. And they're using it to take your monies. That's the scam that is going on right now. If you are very, very, that's the scam going on right now. But that's wrong. That breaches your right to data privacy. And if you look at the Cyber Crimes Act criminalizes holding somebody's as much as holding somebody's ATM card that's not yours. You really need to explain to the person, the authorization to hold that card. It's criminalized under the Cyber Crimes Act. Is that bad? A very personal example, professional example, while still doing our matters for this telecommunications company, so we had issues that were prevalent with respect to SIM swap. There was a time SIM swap was, fraudulent SIM swap was crazy. So they asked us, EFCC invited our clients to come to Enugu Zonal office. And when we got to the Enugu Zonal office, they brought a complaint before us, a petition. This woman has been a cleaner in a government institution for over a very long time. And so upon her retirement, she was paid 1.5 million gratuity. And one thing with this fraudulent SIM swap, how it works is, after a while, you won't have network on your phones. I don't know if it has happened. Then before you know, it comes back. And as it's coming back, debit. So she didn't have network. When it came back, her whole 1.5 million she worked for over 20-something years, gone. So she ran to EFCC and complained. And EFCC invited us. You guys are the telecommunications company. And by the Cyber Crimes Act, we cannot release a subscriber's information. It's very wrong. In fact, it's a criminal offense. So what happened to this person's SIM? We had to do our investigations. And telecommunications company give agents to register your SIM. That's why you can be walking on the road stand. You see one MTN this thing and say SIM registration. So those are agents. So they went, this person, it was done by this agent. And we discovered it was not done in Enugu, it was done in Nasarawa State. So the matter is currently in court, but that money has gone. It's quite unfortunate. But that's the right to privacy, data privacy. So as much as possible, it's important for us to know. I'll just ask you to to download the Cyber Crimes Act. It details everything about this. It's quite unfortunate, but that was what happened. Next slide, please. Now, is it okay to invade your privacy? That's your privacy your privacy. Yes, public order, safety, morality, national security. Now, a hardened criminal whom the government is looking for, he runs into his house and locks his door and says, I have my right to privacy. My brother is a liar. We will break in there and we take you. We have examples. Have you heard the story of you get into somebody's backyard and the person is pouring ever bottle wine? Have you seen that story? Ever bottle, La Casera, Coke. Yes, that's why sometimes people warn you as much as possible, don't buy water on the road. Sometimes when you're traveling, you open the water. It just opens with that cap. That's how it opens seamlessly. People go to the house, lock themselves and be pouring it. And before you know, somebody's selling this thing. At that point, if a police breaks in and arrests the person, has the police violated that person's right to privacy? There are times the EFCC has asked our clients to say, okay, this person is under investigation. Please give us his call logs, give us his messages. Now, if we don't give them, we have committed an offense. And so we give them those information. Now, have we, by giving them this information, violated that person's right to privacy? No. So it's very simple and straightforward. Please, the next two slides. Yes, the next two slides. So we have the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Now, next slide, please. In very, very simple and straight terms, what it says is that I have the right, or you have the right, to profess any religion and make it publicly. Nobody can deprive you of that. I can decide to say I'm a Christian, yes, and I publicly profess that I am a Christian. So it's very unfortunate, which it happens, where you see two religions fighting. The Constitution gives everybody the opportunity to express his religion. It gives you the opportunity. So the issue of fighting is very funny because I don't understand. If you want this person to subscribe to your religion, you need to be strategic. Abi? Yes. So I have the right to choose any religion. And nobody can interfere. Nobody can interfere. Now, once I have chosen a religion, I'm allowed to perform several activities. I'm allowed to perform organized rituals and ceremonies. Now, as Christians, we take communion, right? By virtue of our right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, we can take our communion. Nobody will come and disturb us. We have that right to building places of worship and religious teaching. Publishing of symbols and wearing different kinds of clothing. When I was in university, I had a friend. I won't mention the name of the church. So she puts on one type of earring gear and another type of earring gear. And I'm like, why are you dressed like this? No, it's my religion. She doesn't like blue pens. She uses black. And I'm asking you why. I say, blue is danger. I say, okay, sorry. Be dangerous for yourself. But that is because of her religion. Next slide. Now, you observe holidays or days of rest. That's why we can observe the Easter holidays, Christmas, and the Muslims observe the Eid al-Malud. You display symbols and wearing of different kinds of clothing. We see the Catholic priests, the Anglican priests dress the way they do. They do that under these rights. And so they cannot, you cannot just disrupt or interfere with, what they've chosen. Next slide, please. Now, this is the only right that has just one exception. While you can go around expressing your beliefs in public, the only thought that you cannot express is where that thought originates from. Where? Bam, secret cult. So if the rituals and the ceremonies and the publications, emanate from a line of thought that can be traced to where? Secret cult, it is totally wrong. And the government can interfere And that's why, for those of us, if you remember when we were year one, there was something we felt, undertaking not to join secret cult. When I started my PhD, this is the one we're filling our forms, they brought undertaking for me. I said, how can I be? I'll leave a hustle I start joining secret cult. But it's actually true because when I got in, I discovered that lots of people, even in the postgraduates, are into secret cults, are actually patrons of this, the undergraduates. So you feel that because, and what happens, it is very unique. Once you're found, they are going to expel you. There's no discussion about that. There's no discussion about that. So that's it. So let's try and bear this in mind. The next slide, please. Now, this is freedom of expression and the press. This is I think this is the most abused right. You see people say, I just want to say my mind. Any I want be, maybe. I just want to talk my mind. And you see people go to social media and blah, 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 blah. I have a close relative that's very good grades, wonderful, but he was very vocal about a lot of things, saying it in very funny ways, and I felt very concerned about it. So I called him and said, look, I don't like the way you're going. You have good grades, and you can actually, aside the fact that is you're right, there are repercussions. I've seen someone that lost a job because of, and what big companies do is, when you apply, they go to your social media handles. They profile you. So this one you're writing, chilling things on my mind, and you're doing a lot of things that are funny, doing a lot of things that are questionable. You may be expressing your right to freedom or freedom of expression. It's my right. I go talk I see B. You get to a point, you lose that. You say. So what he did was he now got a job in one of these oil servicing. He applied. He made a very good, the entry result was wonderful. So he was supposed to do an oral interview. And immediately what did he do? He started going to his social media handles, started deleting. But the problem is these guys have already profiled you. So he was just there waiting for them. He was waiting for them. He's still waiting for them. So, in as much as you enjoy your freedom of speech, it means that you can say whatever you like. I do a lot of article writings in journals on construction, contracts, and arbitration. My wife does a lot of article writings on oil and gas, energy. Sorry, my colleague. Energy, oil and gas, and environmental law. Now, we have, by our right, we publish it. That's our right to freedom of expression. Do you understand? So, we are protected by that, and nobody can intervene. Next slide, please. Now, there are instances where it can be intervened. Where you have a television or radio station and it's not registered, you cannot express that freedom. Where you're an employee of the armed forces, you cannot. Like I said, my brother-in-law is a major in the army, and there were certain times he was invited by the NDA defense headquarters to answer very simple thing. The wife will put two of them maybe kissing on social media. And because of that, he used to be in Basawa in Kaduna. They will call him from Basawa to defense headquarters to answer. Say, young man, why is this thing here? So when you're signed up for that, these rights are going to be taken away from you. Now, where an expression is criminalized by the law, an expression, the law, there is a law that criminalizes it. Now, what are those expressions? Please, next slide. Mutiny. We see in the army where you see an army person leading people to disobey the orders of their superiors. You're expressing yourself, but you're disobeying that order. Now, under the Armed Forces Act, I was very interested, so I went through. That's death sentence. Death sentence, mutiny, is as crazy as that. Death sentence. Even as much as I don't have firearms to fight in the north, and I'm saying, guys, let us go and rest. Let us not obey this person. As they are seeing you, they are taking you, they are court-martialing you. And once you're found guilty, in fact, you will be found guilty. And it's death straight. Sedition. You see some people making statements that are against the government. Next slide. Making statements that are against the government. Trying to persuade people, to disobey the government. That's sedition. And I think it's a life sentence, if I may be right. We have defamation. You know, you write things about people that are not true. We see it in politics, and I get irritated when I see friends in APC or PDP or whatever those political parties. Because somebody is not in your party, you start making defamatory statements. Now, I need to warn very well that it's a criminal and it's a criminal offense and it's a civil action. And one beautiful thing about defamation is the higher you are in your status, the higher you are in your academic qualification, that's the higher damages the court will give to you. So if you are defaming a professor, it's professoral damages that you will get. If you're defaming a president, it's presidential what? So let's be very careful. Child pornography. You want to express yourself. You are expressing yourself, pornography with a child. It's an offense under the Cyber Crimes Act. The Cyber Crimes Act is very interesting. I'd like us to look at that. Just in your private time, just download it. Cyberbullying. People bully a lot on the internet. It's an offense. Threats. You see somebody, right? Because you want to express, if you take my father's land, you die. Simple, oh. As simple as that. You write in a letter, uncle, don't take my father's land. As you're writing it, just know that, you see that your right of expressing, you are entering another person's own right. Oh. So as you're entering another person's right, we'll settle that matter. So under the Criminal Code Act, it is criminalized. Next slide, please. That's my last slide. Freedom of movement. Next, please. You can see we have the Lagos, we have the trains. How many of you have entered this train? Very wonderful train, though. As you're entering it, you're securing your bag. They're telling you Abba is 500 naira because you don't want to pass through Bibo and Broadlights area. You're protecting yourself. Before you know, as you come down from Abba, oh, thank God I made it. Where are my luggages? No way. So, freedom of movement simply means you can move anywhere you want to. I can decide to leave Rumomasi and go to Rumokuta. I'm expressing my freedom of movement. I can decide to say, okay, I don't want to stay in Port Harcourt again. Let me go to Boronu and stay. I can decide to say, I can decide to stay anywhere I want. The government cannot expel me from Nigeria as a Nigerian citizen. The government cannot refuse me from entering Nigeria. And I cannot be prevented from leaving Nigeria. That's my right to movement. As simple as that, but we know that there are issues behind. But that's basically what the right to movement means. Next slide, please. Now, very interesting revelation. Did you know that the Court of Appeal has said that restricting citizens' movement during monthly sanitation is a breach of their right to freedom of movement? I can decide to move. It's a civic obligation. I'm not saying people should move. Oh. I'm not saying because there are sometimes that have you not noticed when you pass, sometimes you pass after sanitation, as you're driving past, you'll see people doing frog jump. You've not seen it before? Or sweeping the bush. You've not seen it? Sweeping the bush. They say, what did they say? You say you were driving during sanitation. So they have breached your right to freedom of movement and your right to what? Personal dignity. They have said that it is not an exception under the Constitution. In as much as it's your civic duty to clean your place, nobody should restrict your movement. But we're in a wonderful country. Hallelujah. The courts have said that. But I'm not saying you should go and say, because in the case of Faith Okafor versus AG of Lagos, as you're finishing the statement, is one slap. Then before you want to talk again, if you are afraid of slap, maybe just look for broom or something and be sweeping. But so you know that sanitation, violates your right to freedom of movement. Very important. Okay, next slide. Now, when will your right to freedom of movement be prevented? Where you're guilty of committing an offense. If you're guilty of committing an offense, they won't allow you to leave. They won't allow you to leave a state, leave a country. But it's very funny. We have a very funny scenario that happened in Nigeria. I'm opportune to have lots of experience, in the short while I've been practicing. So we're allies to a large food chain supermarket in Africa, but they have their branch in Nigeria. So in Asaba, in one of their branches in Asaba, so there was this young guy that just, he was going shopping and he opened the ice cream, took spoon, licked it, covered it back. He went again to another place, opened the ice cream, did YouTube and Facebook, licked, covered it back. He was covering himself, recording himself. So when he finished, he stepped out of the supermarket. So he went viral, and the supermarket, got information, and they were able to trace him. They arrested him, charged him, because it was not the first time, it has happened. So they charged him. He was granted bail. Now, even if you're granted bail, your freedom of movement has been restricted because you're answering a criminal charge. So you're not supposed to travel outside. Now, we by nature of criminal matters, since we are representing the company, we cannot stand and defend them. All we do is just watch the proceedings and give advice. So, but for like 5, 6, 7 adjournments, the guy was not coming. Where's this guy? So usually when you don't come, when you're granted bail, you have a shorty. So that's why it's very important as shorties. Anybody you're shortying, know that person very well. We have professional shorties in Nigeria. They just want to make money. As you say, I want you to pay my brother. How much you going to give me? 20,000 naira. It's sweet to give 20,000 naira. But when the bail is revoked, they are coming for you. So they came for the shorty, and the shorty could not produce the person. Long story cut short, the guy had gotten a PR to Canada. The guy the guy was in Canada flexing. You understand? So it's a funny thing we have in Nigeria. Ordinarily, I think the immigration should have information of people that are answering to criminal offenses and be able to stop you when you're traveling. That's why if you notice all these high-profile criminal matters, they first of all seize your passport. You are not going anywhere. Some of them will start saying, God, I have a renal cancer. Sometimes it's not true. Most times. Now, where you're committed a crime against another country, you know the story of Abba Kyari. Very interesting story. I think the offense is against the US or so. So what happens? They've been asking that he be extradited. So in that position, you cannot say, I have a right not to be expelled from Nigeria. Now, the only way that you are protected is if there is no agreement between the both countries, that if somebody from your country commits an offense against our country, you will allow us to get him and bring him over. The other people are saying, yes, so we will allow him, but you too allow us. It's what we call reciprocal agreements. So if you notice, US and Nigeria, they have a reciprocal agreement. And that was why it was easy for this whole Abba Kyari issue. In the real sense, there's a reciprocal agreement. And so ordinarily, that means that Nigeria can take Abba Kyari to answer his criminal offense. And America that commits an offense against Nigeria can be taken to answer his own criminal offense. So I think that is that restriction of movement during COVID-19 health grounds. We saw our movements, especially movements of the sick ones. They had to quarantine them during the COVID. So I think that is all about our discussion for today. I don't know if I still have time. 5 minutes. Okay, that's all about our discussion for today. So this will be the end of my session. By next Sunday, my colleague will take over. So I don't even have quick questions. Okay. Mike, please.